Better strap yourself in. It's time for the Howie Carr Show.
Some are new to politics completely. They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement. They feel that they got their education, and the jobs that are available to them are not at all what they envisioned for themselves.
Live from an undisclosed location.
The Trump campaign needs.
This idea that she's saying this to her friends behind closed doors, to donors, just like Basket of Deplorables. Like she's putting one face forward to Bernie Sanders supporters saying, please come vote for me. And then behind closed doors being like, look at these kids.
Unchained and unstoppable.
Fact is, Senator Hillary Clinton does have a long record of going after her husband's accusers, at least some of whom were later vindicated.
You know, Hillary Clinton may have defended her husband in various situations, but if we want to compare what she has done for women in her life, how she has worked, I mean, when the cameras weren't rolling, when no one was looking, after a law degree from one of the best schools in the country, she went to work for the Children's Defense Fund.
Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
She has been a disaster. But here's a woman. She's supposed to fight all of these different things. And she can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Who do you love? Howie Carr.
Pentagon Papers say that if there's of national import...
There is no national security interest to Donald Trump's tax returns. That's a fact. And the New York Times should be held accountable. And I hope he sues them into oblivion for doing this. Because if the fact remains, if it comes out that these aren't accurate, where's the recourse?
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
Headline in the Washington Post: who gave Trump's taxes to the New York Times? The mystery behind a bombshell story. Is it really a mystery? I guess we'll never know for certain who gave the tax returns to the New York Times. But isn't it odd that the editor of the New York Times was saying he'd be willing to go to jail to get Donald Trump's tax returns, and that Hillary last week at the debate was saying that he must be hiding something terrible? Well, it turns out he wasn't hiding anything terrible. He was operating totally within the law, and yet it's a front page story. And the story isn't the illegal leaking of the tax returns. I mean, we have an Internal Revenue Service here that, again, I don't know who did it, but the Internal Revenue Service is out of control. We know that. Lois Lerner, the Tea Party, the so-called rogue office in Cincinnati, John Koskinen, the new commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. I mean, the fish rots from the head, as Mike Dukakis used to say, and who was the first Treasury Secretary under Barack Obama, a tax cheat. Tim Geithner cheated on his taxes. He admitted to it. Donald Trump hasn't been proven to be guilty of anything, and yet this is the big story. You know, they're trying to make sure that Hillary is somewhat inoculated, you'll pardon the expression, before the WikiLeaks release of the hacked emails, which is supposedly coming on Tuesday or Wednesday. The mainstream media wants to make sure that Hillary is somewhat protected here, and Donald Trump is on the defensive at least for a day or two. And then they think, well, the WikiLeaks is coming, but we can switch over. The hurricane is roaring north up the Atlantic coast, the eastern seaboard, so we can go wall to wall with that rather than with WikiLeaks, whatever WikiLeaks is. But, you know, on the other hand, you don't see nearly as much coverage of what Hillary Clinton said about the Bernie bros. You know, that was pretty damning stuff, wasn't it? When you consider that 4 years ago, Mitt Romney, the Republican nominee for president, was saying that he would have a tough time getting 47% of the American people to ever vote for him because they don't pay taxes. And, you know, he just sort of mentioned it in passing, and he wasn't ripping everybody. He was just saying it's hard to get the interest up in 47% of the population in, say, cutting taxes because they don't pay taxes. And he was made out to be the world's worst human being. And now you have Hillary Clinton. Well, let's play the cut again. We just played it in the intro, but let's listen to it again. This is Hillary Clinton on the hacked audio. We don't even know who hacked into this audio. This is another leak. But here she is at one of her. This was from the DNC. A staffer at the DNC had this on audio tape, and somebody grabbed it, and here it is. So let's listen to it.
Some are new to politics completely. They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement. They feel that they got their education, and the jobs that are available to them are not at all what they envisioned for themselves. And they are living in their parents' basement.
Is that a knock? I would say that's a knock.
And they are living in their parents' basement.
So how come she's not taking any grief about this? Now, Bernie Sanders was on TV yesterday on one of the talk shows, and he said, "Oh, I understand what she was saying, and we have our disagreements, and that's what campaigns are all about, but there's no hard feelings." Yet today he was supposed to be, I believe, in Wisconsin and Iowa with her, and he's not. He's going to campaign separately. So obviously he's offended by what she said. And how about the Bernie bros themselves down in the basement? It's not it's a knock on them. This is the way she operates, though, and she gets this pass, and her acolytes in the mainstream media are making it out like, oh, well, she really meant that in a sympathetic way. Yeah, right. She meant it in a sympathetic way. 1-844-500-4242. 1-844-500-4242. We have a lot planned this hour. Later on, we're going to speak to Juanita Broderick. She's the woman who was credibly accused of Bill Clinton of raping her back when he was Attorney General of Arkansas back in 1978. And she's suffered a lot. And she's been in a tweet battle. It's kind of one-sided. She sent Chelsea Clinton a lot of tweets over the last week or so. But we're going to talk to her at the bottom of the hour. But right now, we're going to take your calls. 1-844-500-4242. Billy, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Billy.
Hi, Howie. I don't know if you saw it, that the Clinton News Network just published this thing that the Dems sent a cease and desist order to the Trump Foundation, and now there's a full-scale investigation of Trump's wrongdoing in his foundation.
Right. That's a guy named Eric Schneiderhan, I believe is his name. He's the Attorney General of New York State. He's been going after Trump before, and Trump has called him a hack. So again, now they're just trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at Trump before these WikiLeaks documents are released. Yeah, it's just more nonsense. I mean, Billy, who do you think has got more skeletons in their closet, the Clinton Foundation or the Trump Foundation?
That was exactly my point. I mean, here they are. I mean, they got all this pay-for-play stuff going on, and they're going to investigate him for what? That he hasn't donated to his own foundation.
Right.
It's hysterical to me. It's hysterical to me that 90% of their charitable giving is to themselves. So
right.
They actually never let go of the money.
So they get a tax right. She was talking today about closing all these tax loopholes in Toledo. I was listening to it when I was stuck in that studio in West Newton waiting for my live shot. And yeah, she was talking about that. They have to close the tax loopholes, and people aren't paying their fair share of the taxes. And that's exactly what I was thinking, Billy. They donated, what, $5 million last year to the Clinton Foundation? So they get a tax write-off on their quote-unquote charitable foundation, which is then used to pay for their opulent 1%er lifestyle. And only what, 6% of the money that actually is donated to the Clinton Foundation, so-called, actually goes to any kind of good works, you might say. Right, the rest of it is just all for private jets and dinners at fancy restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. It's amazing hypocrisy, and they get away with it. And she just goes up there and like this afternoon in Toledo and just spouts all this nonsense. We're going to crack down on the for-profit universities. You mean like Laureate University that paid your husband $15.5 million as a quote-unquote honorary chancellor? We're going to crack down on Wells Fargo. You mean Wells Fargo, where the top shareholder with 10% of the outstanding shares is Warren Buffett, your campaign contributor? I mean, it's just astonishing what she gets away with. And nobody in the mainstream media ever calls her out on it, Billy.
It's nauseating. It's absolutely nauseating. I'm so sick of listening to the crap that they keep slinging at him and doing absolutely nothing to her. Nothing.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Billy. You know who had a really good point on this of all people yesterday on one of the talk shows was Michael Moore. You know, the rotund quote unquote documentary filmmaker. He said people in the Midwest, people that are going to vote for Donald Trump, they don't care about any of these made-up scandals because they just want to knock down Washington. And he said, and that's why they're going to vote for a human Molotov cocktail. I thought that was a really good description of Donald Trump's campaign, a human Molotov cocktail. And from, of all people, Michael Moore. Nancy, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi, Howie.
Hi.
I saw you on Fox and Friends in the morning the other day with
Thank you.
Kilmeade,
Right.
And you look great.
Thank you.
I don't think you realized when you went off the little satellite box, Kilmeade said that's Howie Carr, one of the best radio talk show hosts in the country.
Oh, I heard it, Nancy. I was looking for it. I was looking for it all day long, but they cut it off on the Fox News Channel website. I was very disappointed.
You're kidding. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great, too, when I heard it. Yeah, go ahead.
One other thing I wanted to mention, why doesn't Trump go, a couple of years ago when she was the Secretary of State, $6 billion went missing, and then it just disappears, and nobody looks for it or finds it. Why doesn't he hammer her on that?
There's so much to hammer her on, Nancy. Yeah.
I know. I don't know, but... Yeah, he should, when he goes at the debates, he should bring it up, even if they ask him a question or something, just bring up all this stuff so that all the millions of people watching, can hear it. They're not going to hear it through the media.
Now that you mention it, Nancy, didn't, all these major federal agencies, they all have inspectors general, people who are supposed to be like the watchdogs. Didn't she refuse to appoint an inspector general for her own State Department? I think she did. And I guess now we know the reason why, don't we? Yeah. Yeah, the Inspector General might have found...
Cover up.
Exactly. Thanks for the call, Nancy, and thanks for listening and watching me. 1-844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
There's only one Howie Carr.